Hey guys, I am so excited for today's video. It is a collaboration with Stephanie Marie, and we're going to be talking about 5 underrated makeup products. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to come up with 5, but I actually had to narrow this list down. But this video is a long time coming. Stephanie Marie and I met last year when she came here actually to visit Risa of Risa Does Makeup, and I had the pleasure of having dinner with her and hanging out. Actually, we had dinner twice and hanging out a bit. She had a meet and greet over at Kendra Scott with Risa and Lisa J Makeup, and I got to get to know her a bit, and she is just wonderful. She's just as she appears in her videos. She's really warm. She's really gracious. She's one of those YouTubers that I just respect. I really, really respect. She posts a lot. She has a full-time job. She has a family. She has a side business where she does social media consulting. She has a Facebook group, which is free to join. It's called Strive to Thrive. And you should definitely join if you're looking to kind of boost up any of your social media, like your Instagram or your YouTube or anything like that. It's a really supportive group. I just think it's so great to find a supportive community like that online. It's impossible for all of us to meet together all the time. And so when you can do it virtually, I just think it's amazing. But I'm sure you guys have already heard of her channel anyway, but if you haven't, Stephanie Marie, definitely go check it out. Oh, and she also does, these are my favorite videos of hers, when she does foundation row tests. So she'll not just do a full day wear test like I do with foundations, but she will do like a whole week-long row test for foundation, but she will kind of walk you through her entire process. She'll talk about different application methods. She'll do check-ins midday. She'll do end of the day check-ins. She'll wear them for a very long time. I mean, super, super thorough. So definitely check out her channel if you haven't already, although I suspect you probably have. But let's get into this list of underrated makeup products. So I thought I would go ahead and actually apply the products that I'm talking about, which is why I'm at a really weird stage in my makeup game right now. I have foundation and concealer on. So the first product I wanted to talk about, completely underrated. I don't think I've heard any other YouTuber talk about this. I don't see anyone post about this product on Instagram other than the company. And please let me know if there's someone else on YouTube that has talked about any of these other products. I suspect there are, of course. Please let me know. I'm always looking for new channels to watch, new channels to subscribe to. So definitely let me know. But the first product, or I should say products, this is kind of a grouping, and these would be the Kogendo loose face powders. So I like to use this natural lighting powder to set my foundation. I actually just mentioned this in my January favorites, and I just love this powder. It has just the slightest hint of radiance, but there's no sparkle in there. It's not like the Sisley powder. It's not like the Armani powder. It's not even like the YSL powder. It's even more subtle than that, but it's definitely not matte. And I just think it's absolutely perfect because I don't actually like a very shimmery setting powder. I kind of leave that for my finishing powder, even though I really like a dewy look. But I am just in love with this powder, and then we're gonna go ahead and use this later as a finishing powder. This is their sheer lucent powder, but I'll set that aside for now. The powder is definitely translucent, but it definitely has like a tint to it. Let me just find a brush. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of pat this over my eye area to make sure my concealer is set, and then pat some more powder all over my face. I just think this is such a wonderful powder if you are looking to maintain a little bit of the dewiness that you have underneath. So if you have like a radiant foundation, if you've used like a liquid highlight, if you've done anything like that and you don't want your powder to like fully dampen its effects, I think this one is amazing because it dampens it just a little bit, you know, just to kind of keep you from looking, you know, a little too greasy, a little bit too sweaty. But because this powder itself has just the tiniest hint of radiance, it really helps like maintain the radiance as well. I just like to pat loose powder on first, and then I'll brush away any kind of excess. So I had a pretty radiant foundation on. I used the Clé de Peau, the foundation, the one that comes in the jar. That foundation is very moisturizing. It is very, very glowy. And if you don't set that, at least for me, if you don't set that foundation down, I end up looking kind of like a grease ball by midday. It only takes about 4 or 5 hours for me to look super shiny, but I really like the glowy radiance that it has. And I feel like even though I've put a nice layer of this powder down, I still see that kind of shining through. So That is why I love this powder. I don't know why I haven't really seen this talked about on YouTube at all. I also just feel like Kogen-do is completely underrated as a brand in general. And in fact, most of the products I'm going to be talking about today are from brands that I think are underrated in general, or at least under talked about. So that's the Kogen-do Natural Lighting Powder. Love it. Absolutely love it. So the next product I want to talk about is from Rouge Bunny Rouge. This is definitely a brand that I don't see talked about a lot, if at all, on YouTube. I think the only person I've heard speak about this brand is Melissa Gold. She is, I believe, from Australia, and she's mentioned this brand before, but I came across this brand when I went to the makeup show in New York, I think back in 2016, and I walked away with quite a bit from their line. So one of the standout products that I got when I was at the makeup show is this bronzing glow powder. I think I just used this on camera, maybe during a playing with makeup, and I just love this bronzer. It's very light, it's very natural in tone. There's just a hint of warmth to it, so it's neutral, like warm leaning, and it's not matte. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it has just a little bit of like a satiny shimmer to it. It's gorgeous. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply it with my Tom Ford bronzer brush and add it right here. It just goes on really subtly, but look how effective that is. I think immediately my face looks so much healthier, warmer, little bit contoured. So if you have like a similar skin tone to me, I think it's just a really great, subtle bronzer. It's nothing too dramatic, and it just blends really beautifully on the skin. So this bronzing glow powder from Rouge Bunny Rouge is number 2 on my list. Number 3 on my list is from a relatively new brand. This is from Westman Atelier, and this is their Super Loaded Tinted Highlight. I love this product, and I've definitely heard people talk about this brand, but predominantly I think it's been about the foundation stick that they came out with. I don't think I've ever heard anyone actually shout out this particular product, and it is gorgeous. It is like a cream to powder, really reflective blush. And when I use this, I can use this for both blush and highlight. So I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, which is amazing if you're in a rush. And this formula is really awesome because I feel pretty confident about using it under powder or over powder. I don't feel like this is one of those cream products that you can't use over powder. I just like to tap it on and it goes on really beautifully. So let me go ahead and do that right now. I'm just going to put some on my middle finger here and just tap it on back here, blend that in, and then look at that beautiful sheen. But then head on, when you don't have that reflectiveness, you can see like the rosiness of the blush. Oh, it's just stunning. And if you want something a little bit more blushy, you can throw some right onto the apples of your cheeks here. I just think this product is so lovely. I love the sheen that it gives. And then the tone of this rosiness is really beautiful. And this compact is gorgeous. It's like this black matte and it's magnetized. It's really weighty too. And then the inside, there's like a mirror here and then like a gunmetal finish, like metal trim. It's just gorgeous. So anyway, number 3 on my underrated list. So number 4 on my list is, again, part of a brand that I don't think is talked about quite enough here on YouTube, but specifically, I want to talk about the eyeshadows from Shun Takei. So Shun Takei sells eyeshadows in single pans. They also sell them in these duos, which are super high shine. These are called the La Chrome Luxe Eye Duos. And then they also do like limited edition eyeshadow palettes for like anniversary celebrations or to support like a wildlife foundation that they are donating proceeds to. Those I don't really have, but I want to talk about this palette of single shadows from Shun Takei. I created this probably about 1.5 years ago, and I just never hear anyone talk about it. I think a little bit, etc. I've heard kind of talk about these La Chrome Luxe Eye Duos. I think she's also mentioned her Shun Takei singles, but she's the only one I've ever heard talk about their eyeshadow singles. Tara Babies is someone that I know purchases like the limited edition palettes because she really likes, you know, the packaging and the wildlife foundations. But I think those are the only 2 people I've really ever heard talk about Shun Takei eyeshadows. So I'm gonna go ahead ahead and do an eye look with this palette that I created here. I have a couple more shades in a second palette over here on the left-hand side. These are all blushes. This is actually a cream blush, which I love as well. But we're just going to stick with Shun Takei single eyeshadows today, even though I feel like the whole line is just really underrated. So I'm gonna have a list of all the shadow names that I have in this palette down in the description box, and I'll list them from left to right and top to bottom. So I'm gonna start with this shade right here, which is Sesame, and this is one of their matte shades. And I'm actually gonna use the brush that's included with the palette because I think this is the only brush I've ever liked that's been included in a palette ever. I love this eyeshadow brush. It's synthetic, it works beautifully, and I absolutely love it. And in fact, from this palette, I've already removed it and it's like in my brush cup and I use it all the time. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this brush to lay down this Sesame color. But these shadows are so silky, silky smooth. If you've ever had any experience with any Shun Takei pressed powders, like their powder, their bronzer, their blushes, anything like that, it's a similar sort of sensation. Like you can't believe how soft and silky these eyeshadows are. And they definitely have a number of different finishes. They have matte, which is what I'm using right now. They also have a satin, and then they have shades that have a little bit more of like glittery bits in there. I can't remember the names of them, but all the ones that I've played with are absolutely flawless. They're just really, really beautiful. I'm going to use this shade down here, Patchouli, which is another matte shade. I'm going to use this to kind of start to add a little bit of dimension. And I'm going to use this Shun Takei eye definer brush that I have. I'm going to take this smaller Shun Takei brush. I'm going to go into this shade, which is Cell, and I'm going to put this all over my lid here. And then I'm going to take this color over here, Titanium, to kind of deepen up my outer corner. Taking my Wang number 19 for this Titanium shade. And I'm just going to pat that down and blend that in. I'm just going to take my Makeup Forever 242 brush and just kind of blend out everything. All right, so quick demo of the Shun Takei shadows. I just really love the texture of them. I love the level of pigmentation. It's there, but it's not like over the top. So I don't feel like there's that danger of plopping down like way too much pigment like in one spot. They blend out beautifully. And I feel like the effect that you get with their shadows is like this watercolor effect. I don't know if it's because of the colors that I picked, but I feel like part of it has to be the formulation too. They just blend really seamlessly together. And I just love like the subtle effect that they give the eyes. And I am asked a lot, like what eyeshadows I would recommend for older eyelids, more mature eyelids, because you know, there is that fear of wearing something too shimmery or too glittery, you know, and it just sort of emphasizes texture and things like that. I would definitely recommend these Shun Takei shadows because there's like a little bit of something, but not too much. Like nothing that's part of the Shun Takei, like the regular line, is ever like too over the top. It's always just very elegant and sophisticated and like subdued and just really, really beautiful. So I would definitely recommend this for people who are a little bit gun shy about like super shimmery eyeshadows. So these Shun Takei single shadows, definitely number 4 on my list. And before we get to number 5, which is a lip product, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up like my eye area and I'll be right back. Okay, and last but not least, I have Seurat Beauty just lip products in general. Another thing I just don't feel like anyone ever talks about, and I love the majority of his lip products. The lip glosses are amazing. They have a wonderful texture. There is such a beautiful shade range. The Prismatique lips, these are the ones that come in like this rectangular tube, and these are meant to kind of be like a top coat for your lips. They're kind of sheer, but they have like these glints of glitter in them that really are very, very prismatic. And then the Lip Slick, which is like one of those narrow kind of crayon type lip products, and they're really smooth. They're pigmented, but they're like a little bit sheer. They just go on beautifully. And again, the shade range is just absolutely gorgeous. So I think what I'm gonna do is put on a lip slick and then put some lip gloss on over it. Well, I have a relatively cool eye look, but kind of like warm cheeks. So I should probably do something fairly neutral. Let's see. All right, we're gonna go back to the very first lipstick that I purchased, which is the Nude de Soleil. It is a very neutrally kind of like beigey brown color. And because they're so moisturizing, they almost look like they have like a satin finish to them. And because they're so moisturizing, look at that beautiful like finish that it gives your lips. So there is the lip slick in Nude de Soleil. And then I'm gonna top it with the Lip Luster, which is his lip glosses in Voila. And his lip glosses are a little bit on the stickier side. They have a little bit of like a thicker, tackier texture to them, but they don't like make your lips stick together. It's not over the top. I feel like the tackiness is just enough to kind of keep the gloss in place. I hope you guys can see like that beautiful shimmer in there, but it's so gorgeous. And again, there's just like so many different beautiful shades in his line. This one I absolutely love because it's like a black. Anyway, I have a ton. I'm not going to bore you with all of them, but I just love the formulas of those 3 lip products from Seurat specifically. So before I sign off, I'm going to go ahead and use this other Kogendo powder that I was talking about. This is the Sheer Lucent powder, and I like to use this as a finishing kind of buffing powder. It has just a little bit more radiance to it than the natural finishing powder that I was talking about earlier. So I'm just, whoa, that's too much. So I'm using my Sonia G Face One brush, and that's still a lot of product. And I'm just, oh God, that's so much. Just gonna pounce some on, and now I'm gonna go ahead and buff it in. I mean, look at the magic it performs. I just think it looks so beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? And like I mentioned before, I do really like finishing powders that have like a little bit of a sheen to them. This one probably has like the least amount of sheen to it versus like the Meteorites that I like, the Sicily that I like. Those are probably the 2 most used finishing powders that I have. But this one I really love if I just want like a subtle, do you see that? Just like a really subtle kind of like satin finish. It's gorgeous. So this is that Kogendo Sheer Lucent powder. Definitely, definitely underrated. So I hope you enjoyed my 5 underrated makeup products. I am so excited to see what Stephanie Marie comes up with. We didn't share with each other what we were going to be listing, so it's going to be a surprise for me. Definitely head on over to Stephanie Marie's channel. Again, I will link it down below in my description box. And if you've never been over to her channel before, let her know that I sent you. Give her some love and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I'll see you in my next video.